Hello and welcome to an actual play podcast of Daemonologie, an upcoming tabletop role-playing game. The game is a work in progress, so rules may change, but the stories will remain. Dear Dr. Chatiment, your recent work on the Isle of Wight is commendable. However, it appears that a matter has arisen in Bristol, and you will be taking the lead. You shall meet with Piotyr Kyrszamov and Eli Sawthorne, who have been on assignment in Cornwall, a new recruit, Tanazart Baragson, and a colleague that I believe you have already operated with, Sir Rumpert. You shall find each other at the Hatchet on Frogmore Street, with rooms there paid in full for as long as you need. Please do remember to send word if you no longer require them. The curiosity itself is public. Thus it is possible that the witchfinders are already investigating, but currently it is just that, a curiosity. On the 9th of July, a man appeared to have climbed onto the Cathedral, though no one saw this happen. Once there, he combusted and leapt, colliding with the ground a moment later and frightening the children of the Sunday school. The first note of interest is that the body showed no signs of burns. The man was not identified, though apparently he was well built and had the look of a Scotsman. The second note of interest in this, that night, after the body was taken to the morgue, it vanished and has not been seen since. Those two details together are our cause for concern. Fortunately, the latter is being contained by our employer in this matter, Lady Anne Clifford, the 14th Baroness de Clifford, who is friends to the Bishop of Bristol, John Thornborough. Lady Anne will make the introduction to the Bishop Thornborough at your convenience, although she will not be able to stay in Bristol long. Your charge is this. Find that body and see if magic has disappeared, reanimated, or played tricks with it. Hopefully this is some junior druid playing with fire. If so, tell them of the concilium. Otherwise, it may be something darker. In which case, you know your excommunications. Bring the hand in, however you are able. Chief Justice Lord Matthew Stern, Inquisitor General, twice over.
So nice, they named him twice.
Yeah. Hello, I am Alex, and today we're going to be playing Daemonologie. We're off to Bristol, so let's introduce everybody who is going to be playing today.
I'm Siobhan, and I am playing Tanazart, and I use he/him pronouns.
I'm Fionn, I use he/him pronouns, and I will be playing Sir Rumpert.
Hi, I'm Mo. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm playing a reformed rogue named Eli Sawthorne.
I'm Josh, I use he/him pronouns, and I'm playing Piotyr Kyrszamov.
My name is Felix, I use they/them pronouns, and I am playing Dr Jude Chatiment.
So as I said, I'm Alex, I use he/they pronouns, and I'm going to be mediuming today's session. Lovely. Because we know that Piotyr and Eli have recently been in Cornwall, and Dr. Chatiment has been in the Isle of Wight. Where is Tanazart, and where is Rumpert? Where are they coming from?
Well, the last time I think I was spending time with Rumpert, he was somewhere... It was the Midlands, was it not?
It was in Rutland.
It was in Rutland. It was sunny Rutland. And since then, he has been around the block somewhat, by which I mean he's wandered around quite a bit and been around. So I would say that he's just sort of... If he's received this letter, probably from someone superior to him, and he's taken it quite literally. So he is marching up and down the street looking for a small axe. Presumably he believes it to be a clue. Just along Frogmore Street. So likely someone will see him being an enormous shaggy-haired man with great long fingernails and an enormous axe strapped uponst his back.
I'll note, I'm going to drop this in the Discord, but I'll also put a link to it in show notes of a picture of Bristol from 1813. It's not quite the right period. It's 200 years out, but it's the best estimate I've got of Bristol. So Tanazart, where's Tanazart coming from?
Since Tanazart used to be a privateer, she is no stranger to just going to port towns to talk to her old pirate friends. So she is just visiting Bristol and happens to receive the letter when she is there.
Oh, Tanazart's already in Bristol. Excellent news. Do you head to the hatchet relatively swiftly?
How funny that you would say that, because Jude's nickname is the Swift, not for the right reasons. My impression of Jude is that he sort of just arrives places. He is rarely seen in transit, but he does propose that he is always on holiday, which is a barefaced lie. He shall not be alone. He is constantly accompanied by one of his agents, Martha, a 15-year-old ex-beggar girl, who, by nature of being his operative, is just always there. She likes playing with knives.
That is absolutely a thing about Sherlock Holmes, though, isn't it? Sherlock Holmes has the opportunity to make the beggars that he works with ex-beggars, but does not. Ever. They always remain so, regardless of being in his employ for a very long period of time. Piotyr and Eli, how's travelling together along the road been?
I think very good. I think
We got along pretty well.
Yeah, we had a riotous time in Cornwall, and I think that we found a lot of common ground, mostly in antagonism to the fucking French prick who was accompanying us at the time.
Yes, one of Siobhan's old characters.
Yeah, they don't mean they don't mean Jude. They mean Saint Jean, the lace merchant.
It's alright. I'm accustomed to gentle xenophobia.
And so is Rumpert.
We bonded over wrangling cows.
So it sounds like Tanazart would likely be arriving at the hatchet around the same time as Piotyr and Eli. And then shortly afterwards, we'll be seeing Jude come along and see Rumpert striding through the streets. When Tanazart arrives in the hatchet, it's a squat building. And I mean squat in terms of each floor is quite small, but it's got 5 of them. It's quite quiet. It's around early, sort of like late morning, about, let's say, 11. And as you come in, you're met with a kindly seeming old lady who says, "Oh, hello, madam. Are you looking for a luncheon, or are you looking for a place to stay tonight?"
Good day, madam. I am seeking, simply a glass of water and a place to sit.
Oh, glass of water. Living dangerously.
Yes, quite.
I'll boil it for you. And she heads out back to the kitchen.
Boil it. This country is so terribly backwards.
So do you just sit quietly? Do you wish to speak at all with the old lady before the others arrive?
When she returns with the water, I shall have a little word with her.
So she pops a slightly warm glass of water down on the table and says, "There you are."
Pardon me, mistress. What is your name?
Oh, my name's Marjorie Beckworth. Pleased to meet you. Can I get your name as well?
You may call me Miss Baragson.
Oh, lovely, Miss Baragson. Pleasure to meet your acquaintance.
And a pleasure to make yours, Marjorie. Has anything strange happened lately?
She sort of like dusts her hands along her apron. Oh, have you been in town long at all?
I have been visiting friends.
Oh, okay. So, maybe you will have heard. We had a strange occurrence on the Sunday with a poor gentleman had a fall off the cathedral, but it's all over now. Just a strange incident, I do believe.
Was this unfortunate gentleman not also on fire?
Oh, well, I feel like it's likely a silly rumour. You understand? Now, there's simply no reason to be concerned, as it were. It's a few days ago now. It doesn't matter much. I think the constabulary dealt with it very well.
I would like to persuade from this woman if she has any of her own personal suspicions about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think you used exactly the term. So, for clarity for listeners, we'll be rolling a test tests are the basic way of interaction with the game. Siobhan's going to be rolling. What's your sway?
My sway is 2, and Tanazart is skilled in persuasion.
Perfect. So you roll a dice for each of your attributes, of which they're fitness, constitution, sway, virtue, and intelligence. And then you roll an extra dice if you are skilled in the skill in question, which in this case will be persuasion. And do you have any knowledges to throw in there to help?
No, I do not.
No. Well, 3 dice is still a good chance. You got a success on a 4 or a 5, and a 6 is a matter that we'll deal with if it comes up.
Let's really hope it doesn't.
Immediately is the best way. There's a 5! Immediate success!
Marvelous.
So what do you do to encourage information out of Marjorie Beckworth?
What Tanazart will do is that she will lean forwards a little over her steaming glass of water so that the steam rises into her face, slightly threateningly. Marjorie, I had imagined that we were to become friends, and you would lie to me. Such a shame.
She takes a step back and says, No, of course I'm not lying to you. It's simply that, well, it's a strange matter. I couldn't tell you a single thing about what's happened. All I know is that the constabulary came in very quickly and they halted the sermon, and poor children of the school. I do worry for them.
Oh, yes. The poor children. Who is the constable here?
The constable is a lady called Jenny Morton. She's the chief constable, and she does keep a very tight ship.
Ah, a woman of quality. I can respect that.
Marjorie heads off back to the bar and deals with anybody else that comes through. But because it's the morning, it's relatively quiet. In through the door at around midday pops Piotyr, Benedictus Kyrszamov, and Eli Sawthorne. You've been given descriptions of each other to work off, and you're all difficult to miss.
Can I just ask what day it is?
Oh, it is the 11th of July. The Sunday was the 9th of July, which is when the man on the Cathedral incident occurred. So you're arriving 2 days afterwards. So yeah, when you come through the door, Marjorie hails Piotyr and Eli and says, "Oh, hello. Are you looking for something for luncheon, or are you looking for a place to stay?"
I think Piotr's going to kind of take a step forward and not quite address Marjorie, but if it's possible to try and gauge the spiritual veracity of a room in a glance, he will try and kind of survey any of the patrons look to be sufficiently holy and devout, and I just wonder what he sees when he looks around. How many people are supping at midday?
So it's quiet. There are probably a few people having their lunch, but there's a few old timers gently nursing drinks in the corner. But otherwise, you spot Tanazart, who you'll have the description of to be one of your fellow inquisitors. There's nothing particularly religiously iconographic in the room.
He's just going to look around and kind of to Marjorie's just going to be like, and then he's gonna I think kind of gesture at Tanazart with like almost a wagging finger and like, I'll get to you in a second. But he's gonna take Marjorie and he's gonna say, I'm not doing the voice, by the way. He's gonna say, fair lady, good woman, daughter of the divine, I'm here on ill tidings.
She is immediately a bit taken aback. And says, "Oh, what are such tidings?"
Foul devilry and conflagration in the city of Bristol.
Oh, you're talking about the man on the Cathedral again. You're the second person this morning to worry. There's nothing to worry about that. It's simply a strange occurrence. You needn't concern yourself with the devil, sir.
Strange occurrences indeed.
It is at this point that I would like to roll a perception check, Tanazart, from where she is, to maybe pick up the vibe of the conversation that's going on over there.
Well, so you definitely have the description of Piotyr, and so you could, but yeah, you roll ahead just to see if you can, without drawing attention to yourself.
I am skilled in perception, and I have 2 intelligence.
Do you also add one for demonology?
Not for demonology. I'm just
devilry here.
I think you did quite clearly hear Marjorie profess that there was no devilry, so you can quite easily get that element of the conversation without difficulty.
Let me roll.
I have no idea.
I have no idea. I was looking over sort of perplexedly at people who I've been told to recognize.
You barely even noticed the gentle wagging finger from Piotyr directed towards yourself. It's that water. You're just thrown by how warm it is.
The steam has got in her eyes.
For a whole hour.
I think Eli notices Marjorie's flustering and kind of comes from behind Piotyr and says, don't mind him. We're just here to meet somebody, but thank you for your hospitality.
She flusters a bit further and then says, "Thank you. You're a nice young man." And then turns back to Piotyr and says, "If you need anything, then you can simply ask. But this talk of devilry, I simply will not have it. It is too early in the morning." And she heads off to a back room. When Piotyr and Eli look to Tanazart, and when Tanazart looks to Piotyr and Eli, what does everybody see? So what does Tanazart look like?
Tanazart is a black Tuareg woman in her late 50s, she goes about in shades of blue, and her hair, save for 2 of her braids, are up in a black headscarf the headscarf's tied at the back of her head. She is wearing a kilt over her hosiery because she thinks that skirts are silly and impractical.
Excellent. Are any weapons visible?
What you can see is that next to her is a huge repeating crossbow that she just sort of sat down.
Not messing about. And on the other side of things, what does Tanazart see of Eli and Piotyr?
We'll go with Eli first.
Sure. Eli is probably the opposite of Piotyr. He's quite small, pale, quite short. He looks quite young, kind of early 20s, in clothes that is kind of rolled up. Clearly not originally his clothes, but he's adopted them or stolen. And he has a short bow on his back.
Lovely. And then Piotyr.
So I think I've been describing him recently as barrel-shaped in terms of stature. Thick in the chest, and withered in the face. He's a man in his twilight years, but the demeanor and energy I think that he's exerting it doesn't betray that as much. So he's I never really know what I think he's wearing because I don't think I have any armor of any kind at all really. So I think some scrappy robes, but kind of cut appropriately so that they're not getting in the way of things. Are probably covering his wrinkled manhood. And otherwise, I mean, you said it. I think he's lost some of the kind of formal attire that he would have had in his youth, serving the various czars and lords of Russia in his conquests. But he's kept the facial hair of a well-travelled man, a kempt beard, and Siobhan's just put a fucking picture in the chat, and
Yeah, I'll link that as well.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
great.
So I think that hat does wonders for me. A little, I don't know what you'd call it, like a pie-shaped cap.
It's a skull cap.
Yeah, a little skull
That's
cap.
what it would have been called, a skull cap.
And then, in terms of weaponry, he carries just a. I think it's just better if you just see the single farm scythe that is kind of fixed to his back, and he's kind of stood next to Eli, not towering, but definitely considerably different in stature.
Looming.
I think his stature is definitely increased by the presence of the scythe. I think that has an almost hypnotic effect on the image of Piotyr. So do you go over to greet each other?
I will definitely go over, and I will compliment the kilt.
Yeah, I definitely follow behind Piotyr. Eli spots the crossbow first and is definitely intrigued.
So I'll just take up and with Madam, that is. You have brought a touch of wonderful fashion to this wretched island.
I like you, strange man.
We'll do well.
Little boy.
Nice to meet you. I'm Eli. I'm assuming you're the woman we're supposed to meet here.
Tanazart Walet Baraksin, at your service.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
How do you while the next 2 hours? It's approaching about lunchtime. So do you want to get something from the hatchet, or do you want to run a million miles away and find somewhere much more reputable?
I'm happy to try and convince Marjorie to come sit with us and talk a bit more, if she's willing.
I think Marjorie has already been plied for information by Tanazart and threatened by the fear of God by Piotyr. So I think it's if you do want to lure her over to get some more out of her, it's going to be difficult.
So we're just waiting around. Are we just waiting around for everyone else to arrive?
You can indeed. Okay. So a little bit later, around about 2. Jude, you arrive on Frogmore Street to the site of what does Rumpert look like?
Rumpert is a man mountain of shaggy, unwashed, quasi bird's nest style hair and very long, very hard looking fingernails. He has, as I mentioned, a very large axe on his back with 2 blades, and it's kind of often just kind of bonks into his head as he's like bending over to look at things because he's very curious about the world. So he knows he's here to solve a mystery. So he's sort of walking up and down Frogmore Street, searching for clues, most of which are just things on the ground. So when Jude sees the Dread Knight of Deceit, as he is known, it's likely his buttocks raised in the air as he gazes down at a cobblestone and goes,
So, Jude, you'd recognise those buttocks anywhere.
I would indeed.
You would indeed.
I would describe Jude as being the embodiment of benevolent indifference. He is of unrecognisable stature, unrecognisable build, unrecognisable features, clad only in grey. All of his acolytes / agents must also be clad in grey. He does have weapons. He has daggers and a cleaver and an estoc, but all concealed under his grey cloak. The only thing that is distinguishable is a thumb bone hanging from his neck on a string, which is the mark of himself and his agents, as per my decision.
A human thumb bone?
Yes.
Cool. Cool.
He does not have a penchant for magic. He is mostly interested in things he can see and feel and trust, and has taken to the medical arts rather intensely for the purpose of an early and likely quite botched physical transition, as Jude is a trans man, not that anyone could discern, through his grey beard and grey hair and grey eyes. And he has the most inconsistent French accent in the world, as he is only half French. And we have decided that he is a Viscount of Etretat, where he grew up, purely out of spite, because he does not care for worldly possessions, although he is extremely rich.
So the two with the most inconsistent accents meet on the Frogmore Street.
Yeah, just for the listeners, it's worth noting that Rumpert is a knight who was cursed by some sort of druidic entity, and he was cursed. His curse sort of manifests itself in what we might describe as druidisms, but really it's just sort of a lengthy process of a man becoming nature, and in the end it will kill him or just absorb his consciousness into the earth. And this curse manifests itself in him just sort of absorbing communication skills, which does render it almost impossible to tell where he is from. So we're going to move with that. Not a consistent voice.
most agreed upon. And being accompanied by Martha, when Jude spots the infamous buttocks, he would tap Martha gently and say, "You see, little girl, that is a fool." And then he would approach Rumpert. Am I approaching Rumpert now?
Yes, and as you whispered that, Rumpert, who has recently communed enough with the Great Spirit to attune his senses to a much higher level than regular humans, heard your whispered tones and erupted into a great roar with, "Ah! Monsieur Jude, I'm very pleased to see you. I have missed you very much."
Sir Rumpert, always a pleasure. And always a curse.
See.
Oh.
And Rumpert just kind of stays there, nodding at him as if they share
I
a joke.
like to think of Rumpert as like a hyper incel.
He has become very horny.
And he says that out loud.
He did. Yeah, he did. So I did the voice.
Yeah. Rumpert does not have any filter.
Completely unprompted.
Have you,
Suddenly the thought came to mind.
Again, the curse of his communication skills does just lead to conversational bleed.
Jude will ask, Sir Rumpert, have you any interesting information to pass on? Or is it adequate for us to proceed with our business?
Well, I was looking for a hatchet, but I couldn't find one, so I suppose I shall follow you where you may go.
Jude at this point would gently point towards the hatchet that is right over there.
That is a wooden building. You won't fool me, Monsieur Chatiment.
So, Jude points potentially towards the sign with a hatchet on it.
At which point Rumpert tears at his head, claps himself across his forehead, and marches inside.
Instantly. Very easy to convince.
Yeah, it is.
So, Marjorie Beckworth hears the door go again, sees the mountain and the indistinct greyness next door, and heads across to the bar and says, "Hello, will you be looking for luncheon or a place to stay?"
Senorita, we are looking for friends. You understand?
She immediately points towards the table with Tanazart, Eli, and Piotyr and says, "I think you'll find them there."
Grazie.
Jude will just look at Marjorie gently and say, "I do apologize. It's impossible to stop.
See.
I believe that we have rooms here that have been paid for in advance."
She her eyes widen slightly, and then she looks over to the table with all of you, and looks back to Jude, and says, "Oh my word! Are you Mr.?" And she looks at the ledger and very slowly, phonetically pronounces Chatiment.
Mary, and you are?
Oh, my name is Marjorie Beckworth, and if you need anything, all the lot of you, then you simply need to ask. You've got full room and board paid here for us. It appears to be paid as long as you need, and the tab will all be settled. So, your rooms are upstairs. Will 3 suffice?
See.
Does the party agree? Does it 3 suffice?
Rumpert
One is for
definitely
Rumpert.
agrees. Yes.
3 rooms.
I can bunk with Piotyr.
It's the attic room. It's got a double, and then the other 2 have single beds.
I will
I
sleep
believe-
outside.
Oh God.
I don't know if the 2 whirlwinds that are Rumpert, Umpert, and Piotyr should stick with their minders, Jude
We
and
shall
Eli.
see about that. Jude will also tell Marjorie that if all goes well, they may officially extend the number of days they spend there beyond their reality. Just as
She looks shocked and scandalized for a split second before she goes to make a note in the ledger and then thinks that she shouldn't, and says, "Yes, of course. Shall you be requiring lunch?"
At this point, Rumpert begins to nod his head rather vociferously.
Imminently, bread and cheese will be brought to the lot of you.
Lots of bugs fall out of his hair.
You're all together. It's around 2 in the afternoon. You're able to sit down at your table. How do the introductions between Jude and Rumpert and the rest go?
I think Rumpert looks at his new friends and kind of sizes them up. And they are new friends. He very much will believe that they will become friends. And he kind of looks at each of them in the eye and tries to suss out what their deal is, by which he means like what language they speak. And he kind of starts chattering in Spanish at Tanazart, and then kind of stares a bit at Piotyr and pats Eli on the head. And that's sort of like how each of those interactions end up with. Sort of that's the feel for them.
Do any of the characters react first?
I'd like Piotyr to just, without kind of addressing Rumpert, to kind of just reach across the table, which I imagine he has sat across from, just hold like Rumpert's jaw, shift it left and right, inspecting, and just to mutter, kind of crestfallen, to no one in particular. So we have recruited a devil to fight the devil.
Rumpert doesn't react to that. He maintains eye contact. And then when it is done, he says nothing.
Jude will look at Tanazart first and say, sort of gesturing towards Rumpert, some things should not be explained.
And Tanazart will respond in French. I have a feeling that we should watch these 2.
And then Rumpert responds in French, yes.
I would imagine Jude and Tanazart sort of gently holding hands for a second and just saying, Dr. Chatiment, and respectively.
Tanazart Valet Berax.
Splendid. And then he would turn to the others, gesture at Piotyr and say, "Good sir."
Yeah, because we've got a history. We've been on the Isle of Wight, and I feel like Jude has already grown
I would like not
very
to address
tired.
this.
Yes, already grown very tired of Piotyr in the past.
And then Jude would look at Eli and say, "Look, Martha, a friend."
Eli is slightly offended, but will not show it on his face. I don't think he.
I will say that Martha is usually playing with a pair of scissors.
Eli takes note of that and says, "Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you both. Martha, you too." is
Enchanté.
going to be cautious.
Right. Can I propose a division of activities that the party might agree or not to?
See.
Splendid. I shall do this as me and then as the character. We have a few links. I believe that the most diplomatic person should perhaps seek out Lady Anne Clifford. I think I should go to the morgue, because I know of everything medicine. Someone should also go to the Sunday school, and someone should talk to the constable.
I think maybe I should talk to the constable.
I'm fine with that.
Or perhaps I have a thing. And Rumpert says that, and he raises his eyebrows, possibly higher than any human should be able to. And from his pocket, he pulls out a gem and kind of wafts it under their noses, and it smells like nothing, but he's wafting it as if it smells like something, because it does smell like something to him. And he goes, "I will bury this under a tray, and you will all find that people open up." And then again, with the eyebrows, and the waggling, and the bugs falling out of the hair.
Jude does not disconfirm this, because Rumpert's methods have proven successful in the past, to everyone's dismay.
Yes.
I suspect that Rumpert might be experiencing synesthesia.
In a manner of speaking, basically, he has a spell where if he buries a gem under a tree, we can increase the public's opinion of us, or make everyone in the town incredibly horny, and it can go either way.
Splendid.
So Rumpert is going to walk north to the top of Bristol, and then he's going to find a tree and put it in it.
So, choice words. So while Rumpert heads north, out of the main body of Bristol, and Jude appears to be wanting to go to the morgue, what about Piotyr, Eli, and Tanazart?
Can Piotyr come with me?
Who are they going to...
I'm not coming anywhere fucking with you. I think Piotyr would either like to interrogate the spiritual health of the school children, or otherwise, I don't know if there's any use in getting onto the roof of the cathedral and kind of investigating that as like a crime scene or something, to see if there's any remnants of magic or arcane doings.
We might find that we could reconvene and investigate it together.
If we all meet back at the cathedral.
Yeah, that feels like a good point.
Okay, then I'll interrogate the Sunday school class.
Plus, whoever talks to...
Eli, please go with Piotyr to the children.
Eli
It's worth noting that it is a Tuesday.
Eventually, we'd end up at the cathedral anyway, because whether we talk to Anne Clifford first and then end up with the bishop, it's likely that that's where we're going to be.
So where is Tanazart heading?
I will go to the... no. I will go to the constable first, because Tanazart understands coppers. And then I will go to Lady Anne Clifford, and that should lead me to the cathedral afterwards.
Okay, so Rumpert will be arriving at the constabulary shortly after Tanazart, hopefully with spreading some horrifying curse over the town.
I really hope that everyone doesn't become super horny during my interrogation.
I kind of hope that everyone becomes super horny.
It is down to a roll.
Oh God!
Should we do that first, so then we can know what to expect for the rest of the engagements?
So I think that there's going to be a defining moment where Rumpert does this while people are already at their locations.
Okay.
So firstly, Tanazart and Jude, how do you find firstly the constabulary and secondarily the morgue?
We ask Marjorie.
We ask Marjorie. We haven't troubled the woman too much.
So Marjorie is able to direct you to the constabulary. It's barely a few streets over from the hatchet itself, but she's not certain about a morgue. She says that it's probably best to check with the constabulary. They'll likely have knowledge of that there.
I was about to say.
Well, then come with me to see the coppers first, Jude.
Splendid.
Lovely. So it's very easy to find the cathedral. It's impossible to miss. Yeah. And it's, again, a street or two away from the hatchet. So you all head off in your 3 different directions out of the hatchet door. Very bold to have left Rumpert to his own devices.
Oh, that will come back to.
Truly ridiculous of you all.
We had to have someone on either Piotyr or Rumpert.
I mean, it's just a horny wind spell, guys. What can go wrong?
What can go wrong? 5 miles around for an hour. This is all of Bristol. So Eli and Piotyr, you arrive at the open doors of the cathedral. People are milling about the square outside, but the traffic in and out of the cathedral is quite light during the day on a Tuesday. Do you head on inside?
I think Eli does normally follow behind Piotyr, considering he has more of an intimidating stance, but this time Eli slowly just nudges his way in front, quite fearful of what Piotyr might do to the poor children inside.
And Piotyr will kind of way back, sort of coming through the doors. He's going to be yelling various notions of brimstone from the sky, kind of questioning the traffic of the people, and asking how they can continue about themselves when they know that fiery devils fall upon the very ground they walk on.
Oh wow! And going straight in with it.
And I think I'd like that to be a roll.
Yeah, no, I was going to suggest.
And I want it to be performance.
This is so yeah, that makes sense. I was going to suggest. I thought for a split second compassion. This is as far from compassion as it gets. I think
pure rhetoric. Pure rhetoric.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. What's your sway?
It's 2.
And what do you have performance?
I do.
Perfect.
So is that,
do you have anything that might help here?
Church law.
Yep, perfect. Straight in with 4 dice there.
Oh boy,
yeah,
that's some good talk.
More than enough successes. So yeah, what do you want to accomplish with your preaching of damnation in the doors of a cathedral?
I want to stress sort of the urgency of this hulking shambles as kind of some kind of righting of some great wrong. So as I'm commanding that, the people of Bristol will kind of realize their own spiritual deficiencies and kind of come forth with any knowledge that they deem useful, and will tell me of all the happenings that have happened at the cathedral since the event.
So what occurs is within a minute, you have gathered a crowd. There are about 30 people which includes almost every single person that was already in the cathedral and most of the people in the square. You're standing in the doors of the cathedral, having to manage the fact that some, like a semicircle are outside and a semicircle are inside. And after a few minutes, after a few moments of this, as soon as the crowd's gathered, a gentleman comes up to the semicircle from the inside of the cathedral and says, Sir!
Yes.
Not to interrupt, sir. I wondered if you'd like the pulpit, and you can see very clearly that this man is a priest.
Piotyr will take the pulpit.
So he leads you over, and he introduces him. His name is Giles Fulton, and he asks, quite in sort of like a timid manner, "Have you been hired by the bishop? I wasn't expecting a speaker today. I haven't told the people of any ceremony that's going to be occurring."
We tread the path of righteousness and are here for your salvation.
Perfectly great news. Thank you, sir. And keeps sort of like walking slightly intimidated and timid, regardless, next to Piotyr. He lends you the pulpit, and he means to give a short introduction first, but he stands there and says, "And now," and then steps down from the pulpit, giving room for you. By this point, 40 to 50 people have gathered.
And so I think in terms of like the rhetorical strategy that Piotyr is about to employ, he's going to lead with his conquests of the various different small holdings in the various Russian forests that he was contracted to subjugate.
Yes, we've previously determined Piotyr is a Russian war criminal working under the Tsar at one point.
Is that Ivan the Terrible?
Yes.
Oh, it was good.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was Ivan the Terrible.
Glad I've got my timeline sorted.
And I think that Piotyr did see some stuff over there, and I'm fully.
You don't say.
I'm fully willing to believe that the things that he saw did encroach upon the supernatural and/or biblical in their nature, and so I think that he's going to relay that he saw similar celestial beings falling from the sky, wreathed in fire and flames and fury, in his travels in Russia, and he is dejected and despairing at the sight of such things occurring in this. I think he's just going to go and call it. He's very wary of big cities and kind of high population areas. So I think he's just going to come out and say that it's kind of like a wretched pit of a city, and says that there is salvation that is required, and that people must be on the lookout and must come forward to Piotyr himself with any kind of information, and to not take up arms, but have arms at the ready if need be.
Within 4 hours of Piotyr arriving in the city, he's starting to incite a rebellion. So Eli deliberately headed in front of Piotyr to stop potentially this exact thing. More likely inciting the Sunday school into rebellion. But how is Eli responding to the sermon before we see the benefits that it may reap?
Wait, can I just ask, am I preaching to some of the Sunday school as well? Or do I need to do that separately?
There appear to be a choice scattering of children, not enough to make up a Sunday school.
Okay, if I can inspire them, I'm doing my job as well.
The next generation of revolutionaries. How is Eli responding to this?
I think Eli has realised that he cannot do anything to stop Piotyr. He's clearly got his mission set out to preach to the town, but I think Eli just sits quietly, hoping that if he doesn't cause any more attention to the kind of group, that maybe the crowd might die down or Piotyr might finish with maybe little damage.
So very quickly into the sermon, when you start entreating ideas of, hellfire and pits of sin, and calling Bristol such things. You very quickly get somebody saying, "Corruption! Corruption paid back!"
And Megamind, where Brad Pitt's character goes, "I love you, random citizen." It's gonna be kind of that reaction to this man knows what I'm talking about.
In Russian.
In Russian.
So it's a very old gentleman. He says, "Yes, exactly. They've been trying to do away with all the good business in the town."
I'm gonna like look at Eli and like with like a knowing look, being like, get this guy over here.
Giles very timidly asks, sort of speaks out, just like, "Yes, but do not actually take up arms.
But have
please.
Arms at the ready."
Yes, have arms at the ready, but do not take them up. He's just ensuring that you're not inciting a riot, which he may fail at. Does Eli do as Piotyr says and catch Gilbert, this old gentleman?
I think so, yeah. I think
so. He introduces himself as Gilbert Reed as he's taken, and says, "Oh, you're the nice young man that's standing with this very impressive fellow."
Yeah, he would be very interested to speak to you, actually, if you wouldn't mind coming along.
Oh! He seems blessed, and he shouts back into the crowd, and says, "Cecily, Cecily!" And this other old woman comes on out of the crowd, his wife Cecily Reed, and he says, "Cecily, I'm going to meet the impressive fellow." And Cecily says, "Oh, he's very impressive, isn't he? No, we have a sword at home. I was going to give it to our son, but I think that we might need to keep it for ourselves. In case the devil comes a knocking on the door, I say. In case the devil comes a knocking on the door."
Eli tries to calm her down a little bit. I go, "Oh, there's no rush. Just a small conversation."
And so, does Piotyr try to get anything else out of the crowd while once he's noticed that Eli has found somebody to be forthcoming with information?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of let them know that I'm pitched up at the hatchet, and that if they have any spiritual qualms, that to seek out Marjorie Beckworth and lodge information
Poor
with
Marjorie.
her.
Poor Marjorie.
You're gathering a cult, are you, Josh? You're gathering a cult.
So Eli brings Gilbert and Cecily Reed around to Piotyr. Giles comes over to Piotyr. He seems like chocked full of adrenaline. He's never seen anything so religiously inciting in his life. And he says, "Sir, you must meet the bishop."
And I'm gonna what's this guy's name? Giles.
Giles.
I'm gonna cup Giles on the back of the neck and just say, "Take me to him."
He looks you dead in the eyes and says, "Yes, sir, I will." At the same time, Eli arrives with the reeds.
Can I just like turn and like just sort of like pat Eli on the shoulder and be like, "You're my rock." Just say that. I feel like Piotr's just like so like reliant on the actual functional capacity of Eli to like.
Eli is genuinely terrified what Piotyr would have got up to if he wasn't there to rein him in a little bit.
Mm-hmm. This would have been an outward rebellion in session 1. So on the other side of town, before we meet the reeds, we should look at the constabulary with Tanazart and Jude arriving. So outside, there's you get the impression that this man has had this job of a very low down constable, one of the sort of like night watchmen, for most of his life, and he appears to be about 60 or so. He sort of like, he wears the job well, and he's grown into his uniform. He's not too tall, but he's got greying hair. And he says, you wish to enter?
That was rather the idea.
Oh, is there anything that I can help you with, perhaps direct you in the right direction, sir?
If you would be so kind as to point me in the direction of the morgue.
Oh! You'll need to head quite a bit of a distance across over to the east side of Bristol. Do you know Bristol well, sir? You'll be looking for, as I check my map, why is it blurry? The other map. So, I really love that the map that I'm currently using is Don's new and correct plan of Bristol. Because I was previously using a map from 20 years prior, which of course was not a new and correct map. I was using Matthew's, new and correct plan.
It was actually old and corrupt.
I love that it's the point in history where you just need to advertise things by saying they're new and correct. So he directs you to Portland Square. It's by St. Paul's on the northeast side of town. He directs you that you'll simply need to take Nelson Street as far as it goes, and then take a left, and you'll be there at Portland Square.
And that's what Jude says. Looks at Tanazart, says, "Madam," and takes his leave.
And says, "And yes, madam, do you need directions as well? Or you said you wanted to go inside. I do apologise. Who is it that you wish to see?"
The chief constable.
Right. What business?
A man leapt from the roof of your cathedral on fire.
Yes, I think you'll find, madam, that the situation is quite under control.
Is it?
He looks at you and says, "Why, yes, we're looking into the matter of the gentleman, but he has expired, unfortunately."
I'm going to persuade this man to let me inside.
What do you wish to persuade him of? Oh, let you... Okay, so you want him to direct you inside to Jenny Morton, Chief Constable.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead with a little persuasion.
Let us see.
Skirting by there.
Ooh.
2 1s and a 5, so that's a success. Stephen White, this night watchman, or day watchman, let's just go with watchman, says, so how do you go about it, convincing him of the importance of your help to this matter?
Tell me, Stephen, how many men have leapt from churches in Bristol on fire lately?
I feel as if you know the answer to this question of 1, madam.
And do you not think it very strange?
It is quite strange, but stranger things have happened, have they not?
Where? When? How?
Yes, it seems as if you would rather speak to Madam Morton. I will send you in. You can find her her office on the upper floor. You just need to go by Sally Dog Morton, and she'll direct you in. She deals with all of the walk-ins and such. And he opens the door and says, "Off you go. Very well.
You have been most helpful. Stephen, was it?"
Yes, Stephen White.
A long life to you.
And very much yourself. You head through the entryway to the constabulary. It's a modified townhouse of sorts. You can see that back rooms lead to jail cells in which a relatively young-looking man is sat. Outside one of them, you see the woman, Sally Dogmorton, who you were directed to by Stephen outside. And once you impress on her what you did to Stephen White, she directs you up the stairs towards the Chief Constable, Jenny Morton.
Tanazart will make a mental note of the singular young man in the cells to circle back to.
Up the stairs, you see you head through a door straight into an office. The constabulary is not teeming with rooms. It is the simple three, with what appears to be a cabinet of weapons downstairs. Inside is Jenny Morton. She's in her 40s. Her head turns up from her desk towards you and says, "How may I be of assistance? What is it that Sally's let you in for?"
Miss Morton, you are the constable here, yes?
Indeed. And your name?
Tanazart Walat Baraksu. A pleasure to meet you.
And you? What is it that I can help you with?
It is always comforting to meet a woman of business in places like this.
Can you make an etiquette test?
I can, yes. I don't have etiquette, but I do have two sway. Let's see how that goes for me. Whew!
You have just succeeded. Your icebreaker with the constabulary of Bristol. So this is a conversation, and conversations are done in 3 stages. The first is an icebreaker to make sure if the constabulary or the faction in question has a high opinion of you. You have the attention of the constabulary of Bristol. Now, the next 2 stages are bargaining and negotiating. The bargaining stage is to get sort of like small minor boons, and negotiating is to get something very, very big. Jenny Morton asks, "What is it that you're doing here?"
I have come with colleagues of mine to determine the cause of a strange happening here.
You're referring to the gentleman at the Cathedral.
But what else?
Well, you should know that we have the matter quite under control.
Have you dealt with many men suddenly catching a flame and leaping from buildings?
What is it that inclines you to believe that I have not dealt with many men catching a flame and jumping from buildings, or issues of the like?
Something tells me it is a quiet town.
She impresses that you should sit and tell her why you believe he can be of assistance.
For a long time, I was a privateer. I have seen many, many strange things. And for a not inconsiderable time, I have been a scholar of the weirder happenings in the world.
She asks again, "And what aid do you think you can offer?"
When I lived in Spain, I would help unfortunate people find the source of their troubles, of crimes against them. And I think I might help you here.
And you believe this to be a strange matter?
Quite strange. But I am not yet sure whether it is dangerous and strange.
She stands and says, "I have something I should like you to inspect."
Of course.
So she will now proceed to lead you on exactly the path that Jude headed off mere moments ago. So Rumpert Umpert.
See.
On the north side of town,
Oh, please, God.
you find a tree
What kind of
in
tree?
a garden. Oh, Lord. Come on. Modern day maps of Bristol.
If this goes wrong, is Piotyr about to be mobbed by a sex cult?
There is a strong chance.
Oh, no! I don't know any magic. I can't ward myself or the constable against this.
No, you're just going to go at it like animals in a morgue.
God damn.
Oh, no.
Hate that description.
So, you find yourself at Clifton Downs.
Famous.
The site of the modern day Bristol Zoo Gardens. You can tell that I'm using Google satellite view. So there is very much something called oak tree.
Oak, you say?
Yeah, so I think that might do.
Okay, so Rumpert walking along, he's taking in the world, soaking it into his hypersensitive senses. He spies the tree, he breathes it in a bit from a distance, and he sort of walks over to it, brushes the tree like it were a horse, and then he scrapes at the ground like a dog, kicking the dirt in between his legs, and just like scrabbling away. He takes the gem, wafts it under his nose like it's a fine wine, stuffs it down, and then Fionn rolls a dice. It's a 5. No horny wind. Unfortunate.
Oh.
Deeply
I
unfortunate.
was so stressed.
Woo!
I was so stressed.
So Bristol's not horny for us.
Bristol's
Not currently,
horny
but I'll
today.
do it again tomorrow.
Please.
Oh god.
So, out of the tree comes a delicate but compelling perfume that will spread over 5 miles. Somehow I feel that Rumpert Umpert sees this.
He does.
This perfume.
Yeah. It's a sort of,
What does it look like to him?
particulates in the air, and it sort of, if a colour could ooze, then it would. It oozes from one through like pink towards a purple, and just kind of floats between these two colours, changing in the light. And he lifts up his enormous arms, and he shuts his eyes and allows it to float along his skin. And generally, he's having a really good time as he just lets that all into his pores. And as he goes about his day, I like to think that scent will have stuck to him, making people in particular feel very connected to him.
The last image we will leave this session with for now is another like watchman looking over this site. She started watching at the time when Rumpert was digging underneath the oak, and was about to head over when Rumpert stopped, put the gem in, and then just started wailing his arms in the air.
Like a big inflatable guy outside of a car dealership.
She's got her hand rested on her baton and then simply just walks away.
As she would. What else can you do?
Smiling. We, with the camera, see the gentle perfume waft by her head.
Then he whistles, and a bird comes down.
But it's not a horny bird.
No, it's
Thank
not.
God.
It's one of his pet birds.
Just to stress that, it's just not a horny bird.
No, not this one. The horny birds
So,
are very different.
So we will halt there for now. We'll be back in an hour personally, but you'll hear this next week. And we'll be looking at the morgue, and hopefully the bishop, and reconnecting with this Giles fellow. So yeah, you can find all of our social media handles at Daemonologie RPG. That's Daemonologie spelled with a D-A-E and then an I-E at the end instead of a Y. Daemonologie RPG. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit. Yeah. So we'll be back soon. thank you for coming to listen, and bye.
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 Bye!
Bye.